BIDI 2. April 14th, 2019. Well, BIDI is with you, and will be able to continue, if you don't mind. Enjoy it, because tonight I'll come without talking. I'm not saying for everyone, but we have work to do. So, dear friend, I'm listening to you again. Voice. Yes. Hello again, BIDI. Dear BIDI, from a sister, question from a sister. Can you explain precisely how guilt and suffering are an alibi, even if it is unconscious? It is incomprehensible to prefer to be in guilt or suffering rather than to let go. Thank you for your clarity. Beloved, what you must understand is that you can do absolutely nothing about guilt and suffering from the person, from the story, from the character. It has been explained in length, breadth and depth. There is, once again, I repeat, no guilt or possible understanding, simply accepting that this guilt and suffering belong to the characters, to the story, to the wounds, to the habits. Even if it is not seen, it is an alibi of the person, of your mind, of your residual beliefs, and this is an alibi. That is, somewhere inside you, there is still an identification, and I don't care if it is conscious or unconscious, with those elements that are perceived, that are not you. In reality, today you cannot want to seek an explanation, an understanding of this suffering, but simply to see that it is there, to embrace it to let it pass you by, not to be interested in it, not to deny it either. But this is in line with the principle I explained 7 years ago, the principle of rebuttal. You are not this, you are not that, you are not what is happening, your eternal beatitude. Whatever the explanation, whatever the understanding, there is, unconsciously or once again consciously, and I don't care, a non-acceptance of the naked and absolute truth, otherwise there would only be laughter and smiling. More and more of you, whether through my words, through your experiences, seek the ridicule of the character. Somewhere, even if it's unconscious, suffering and guilt are only alibis that are given by your character to prevent you from being free. Freedom does not care about suffering, freedom does not care about guilt or causality. Somehow, it means that there is still identification with the person's scenario, with the person's story, and even if it has been seen, even if it has been experienced, it is not entirely crossed. It is not your responsibility, it is not you who are responsible for this, but your person. So this is an irrefutable sign that you are still somewhere identified with your experience, as I explained earlier, in relation to those who have gifts, and who are still discriminating between good and evil. This undoubtedly indicates that you are still subject, even without seeing it, to the principle of duality and the principle of causality. Whatever the love that emanates from you, you still carry this suffering, and you don't care if it is related to your childhood, to a karma or to all your incarnations. What happens in the present, when you experience suffering, is simply to remind you that you are not in the present moment in its entirety. There are snippets of stories, snippets of habits, snippets of behaviors that curb the natural expansion of who you are beyond the world, beyond anyone. As I said, suffering or love, and you will live it with such intensity that you will have no choice but to accept and embrace what you are, and that is still partially unknown to you. What you feed by your gaze, by your need for explanations, by your need for understanding, makes guilt or suffering even more rigid. He who accepts inflexibility, humility, simplicity, to see clearly, can no longer be affected by suffering or any guilt. Guilt and suffering are always the illusion of the person, whether you like it or not, whether you accept it or not, does not change anything. And as long as you are in the posture of understanding, you will not be able to live it. Because if it is an understanding that does not result from the experience, this understanding is purely intellectual, results from concepts and results directly from the duality that is still active in you regarding what I have explained, that is, good and evil. In the absolute truth, in the Agape, there is neither good nor evil. There is what goes through, and there is what manifests itself. But as soon as you look at what is happening at that level, you are trained in spite of yourself to experience suffering. Only the one who stands in silence in these moments, who has the ability to let go of what is, sees him transmute himself through his experience, and never through an intellectual understanding. The experience is understanding. This understanding has nothing to do with the intellect, nothing to do with what you might call an understanding or an explanation. Explanations would only slow you down, because the way the question is asked proves that you would take hold of the explanation, but the explanation is about the person. There is no way out in the person, and it will now appear to you every hour, with an increasingly obvious acuity and form of urgency. As long as you don't give up the case will be there, despite the fire of the heart. But the fire of the heart, if, as soon as there is a thought of guilt, you move as it has been explained countless times, in the heart, not in the head, but at the central point of the heart, at the heart of the heart, as it has been named, you will see for yourself that your own guilt is not yours, and that you are in no way in resonance with it. It is simply your acuity and your awareness of this guilt to want to get rid of it that is an obstacle. That is, as soon as you think, as soon as you need an explanation, it's simple, you can't live it. That's how it is with love. Love has nothing to do with the person, even if it is expressed through this bag of meat or this temple, you name it as you wish. So, the only explanation is not the why of the how, but simply to accept that you are not that. It's the same principle as rebuttal, but it's not going to take months, it takes a breath. It is so obvious that the more the intensity of suffering increases, the more you will only be able to laugh about it yourself, there is no other possibility. As far as the explanations given by either or the sidekick are concerned, there is the same explanation at the neuroscientific level that he knows, but just because you have the explanation and intellectual understanding does not mean that it will be overcome, quite the contrary. Quite the contrary. But this stimulation of explanation will allow you to allow those who accept, without reluctance or procrastination, and without seeking in their head any explanation or vision, that they will cross it with ease, grace and ease. You have nothing to do but to embrace everything that is there, everything that appears before your eyes, everything that appears on the inner screen, all the emotions that pass, all the pain that passes, you are not that. You think it's you because it affects your consciousness and you think you can get away with it. So either you do medical or psychological work in the most down-to-earth sense, but I guarantee you don't have time anymore. Everything is accessible, everything is there in your heart. In the heart, there is no guilt, no fear, no suffering, no discrimination, as I stated in the first part. It is not because you understand intellectually that you will live it, it nourishes the ego, it nourishes the person, but under no circumstances does it nourish love, it even deprives you of this love. And it is the only choice you will have, which is not a choice, you will have the impression of a choice, and when you have the impression of this choice, between suffering wherever it is, in the head or in the body, in history or elsewhere, in relation to the love that is there, that love will cover everything and invest, provided that you remain calm, that you do not make your head play. As I said earlier, I do not want you to play on your visions, your perceptions, but to embrace everything with the same equanimity. You have no alternative, I explained it in countless ways by being in my bag, only through the one who let me pass through him and who, now, I'm in him. You can see that our faces are similar. That's normal. That makes sense. But you can't understand it. As long as you think you're going to understand it, you're possessed by yourself. It just means you're right next to the truth and you haven't given up. Accept that. It is in this sense that I called it an alibi. It is an alibi, not for who you are, of course, but for your character, for whoever believes he was born one day, for whoever experienced such suffering, for whoever follows a linearity that no longer has any reason to be. Love is the total transcendence of the person, of history and of all worlds. There is no space for suffering in love. There is no space for fear in love. Of course, you're all rediscovering and learning, but it's over. As I expressed it abruptly, it is suffering or love. And if you see this choice, love, if you stay calm, will take up all the space. It's not your choice. You are not responsible in any way, it is your person. So if you don't see it, it's because you are still identified with yourself, it can't be any other way. Is that clear? I'm not here to explain it to you, I leave it to the one called JLA, it's in his head, it's in his knowledge, it's in his experience. I'm going to be much more direct, it's an alibi. You don't see it, you don't see it. I can't explain it to you, except that it is that, except to let go, except to cross, even through suffering, guilt or anything, and you will see, while living it, that just behind it, there is this ineffable bliss. It is your mind that needs explanations, it is your mind that needs to understand. I have spoken to you, I am still speaking again. Understanding with the head is not the natural understanding of the experience. Nothing can replace the experience. You may have all the knowledge in the world, you may know all the neurological circuits in your head, but until you let go of that, you are not free. Freedom is love. Suffering is the person. You have no other useful understanding. Accept it, live it, and then you will understand, not before. It has been explained 1,000 times. If you put understanding in front of it, the need to understand, the need to explain before living it, you condemn yourself. So it's an alibi. If you don't understand this simple sentence, then I don't know what to tell you. Do you understand? Voice: yes. Thank you. Voice: another question from a brother. Jesus was love. Why did he want to suffer and die on the cross, as there are many people all over the world, who flock themselves and scarify themselves, etc.? These people didn't understand anything. Christ did not ask to end up on the cross. He even said in the Garden of Olives, "Father, take this cup away from me." If you're real and authentic, your body can be devoured by lions, you can be crucified, you can be torn apart, you will always have a smile on your face. And I think that at the time of the first descent of the Holy Spirit, at the time of what the Westerners called Pentecost, you knew very well that the first Christians ended up devoured by lions. They did not lose their joy, they were no longer identified with this junk character. They were not fooled. Love performs these kinds of miracles, and this is its daily life. But if you do not live it, it remains totally incomprehensible to you, because you do not live it. You can take all the models that have passed on earth, you can take all the teachings whatever they are, if you do not have the autonomy to live it, you are not free. The major problem is that everyone is free, absolutely everyone. I explained earlier, those who continue to play with good and evil, discernment, they peddle in sauerkraut. I think there is no bike, as Grandpa said, but it is still sauerkraut. It is a hodgepodge, it is people who play with their conscience, who do not see their realness, but who will obviously have moments of joy, as I have expressed it, but they will oscillate, and this oscillation between joy and suffering, love and suffering, will become more and more a big gap. And when you are totally torn apart by joy, laughter and suffering, you can only surrender and surrender the last weapons of the ego. That's how it works. Now, those who in history, whether in India, or the so-called sadhus, who inflicted self-harm on themselves, were sham imitators. Either suffering is rife because you are free, and at that moment you can say like Christ, "Father, why have you abandoned me?" This is the last rage of suffering. You have the chance to experience the resurrection without having been crucified. What you are experiencing now for those who oscillate between the most naked joy and the hardest suffering, are crucified. It is the intelligence of the light that does this, and you can do nothing about it as long as you believe you're a person who is alive, and as long as you are not entirely life, that is, as long as you make a difference between the elements, between consciences, between good and evil, between white and black, these are habits that you must let go. It was a natural mechanism in the illusion of this world. The natural state, the eternal I is there, and you still play that game. But you don't see it, because you don't live it. You will experience it, I have explained it clearly, I have not lied to you, you will attend the character who suffers his crucifixion replaced by joy. But where are you, in the suffering character, or are you joy? It's as simple as that. And don't tell me it's not possible, don't tell me you can't do it. Because at that moment, it's the person talking, not who you are. And this game, unhealthy, you're all living it right now. It is precisely to strip you of the last reflexes, the last conditioning, because love knows neither conditioning nor reflex. It is a permanent and perpetual gift, a gift of self, a gift of the body given to lions, given to the cross with joy, whether you like it or not. The stars have told you about it. But you are no longer at the stage of suffering, you no longer need to suffer, you no longer need anyone, you certainly do not need your character, you are prior to that. This is what we have hammered through both what the elders, the stars, the archangels, and I in my first series of interventions in 2012, as in September, as today. Say it in a nicer way, you're plugged. Laughs. Then open the door. You don't have to do anything, just be there. Don't stop anything, whether it's laughter, tears, let them pass through you. Don't take it on yourself. You're the observer. You're the eternal I, your pre-creation. And all those who are currently playing it for us to play with projections, with messages, with visions, are still stuck in this alternation of joy and suffering. And as long as you play that game, well, you'll suffer. But not you, your person. And if you feel the pain, it is because you are still a person. I have already explained that, when I had my health problem in my throat, of course, I felt the pain, of course, I said that I felt weak, but I wasn't suffering, it's the truth, and that can be explained. So don't count on me to do it, because I'm much more direct, you'll see about that with Eba, JLA. But once again, the light that is given by life, by words, by mine, by Eba, by the circumstances of your lives, does not have to be scrutinized, it does not have to be analyzed, it does not have to be weighed. There is no choice. As long as you believe you have the choice, you are not free, you are still under the effect of action-reaction, which has nothing to do with the law of grace or the law of one as it has been named, I believe. It's as simple as that. It's like your nose in the middle of your face, you don't see it, but it's there. All the bodily manifestations, whether it is visual disorders, sensory disorders, perceptual disorders of your body, heat or cold that appear everywhere, sleep interruptions, or lethargy, are there only to make you let go of the last bits, as I said, of habits. And that's all. We don't need you. And as I said, you will laugh at yourself, with humor and love, it is not derision. How could you miss something so simple? Today, how can you let your thoughts and positions hurt you? So of course, at the functional level of the human being, I don't know what it's called, but there is a real junction point between suffering and love. When you see this, the evidence is there, but not before. Yes, well. As with the previous question, it is an alibi, while the next question is a positioning error. To believe that you must flog yourself, to believe that you must martyr yourself, to believe that you must do violence to yourself in any way, is a heresy. Be gentle, be peaceful, be loving of all that character who still tortures you. This is how you go through it, not by trying to explain it or to make analogies with Christ or the saints. As long as there is in every brother or sister the slightest desire to react, you cannot be free, and this in all the circumstances of your life. It does not mean being a vegetable. Do not confuse what is of the order of the person, the obligations, to wash, to go to the toilet, to respect the commitments and what happens on the scene of your intimate consciousness, and this kind of equation that solves itself as soon as you accept it, between the game of suffering and the eternity of love. The I, the character is only suffering, it appears, it disappears into suffering, and you call it birth and death. But what you are has never been sick, was never born, and will never die. So yes, alibis, pretensions, need to grab things from you, need to monopolize, that's everything but restitution. Love is a restitution, a gift of your life to life. And don't use me as alibis like steps or non-lived, or non-felt. I can only refer you to your false guilt and false understanding, which are based on the person, on history, on past experiences, even yesterday, even the previous moment. The solution is here and now, it's zero time. There is nothing else, everything is there, everything is incomplete elsewhere. There is no possible completeness in the person. There will be less and less balance if you remain a person, and it is independent of an illness, independent of where you live, independent of your wallet, independent of your husband and independent of anyone. That's what autonomy is all about. And at the moment you live that there has never been anyone, and apart from being in a permanent laughter, who doesn't care about social contingencies, who doesn't care about being crucified, who doesn't care about suffering, because he is not affected in the truth that he is. He will not seek suffering, he should be sick, even more so. Of course, in the example of the second question, why were there so many characters whipping themselves, wearing, I don't even know what it's called your stuff anymore, but these things that make you suffer. Love is free of all this, totally. Do not believe me, especially not, live it and do not tell me how to live it. Simply by embracing, by giving, by crossing, by stopping at nothing and being spontaneous, by being humble, by being on the way to childhood. Terezi has spoken to you about it for so long. So of course, you could call it faith, but faith is not blind faith. You have enough symptoms, vibrations, energies, elements in your lives, even in the character, that are there to enlighten you, provided you accept. But if you put your mind before the pros and cons, good and evil, or the need to understand, for the moment, it is not possible for you, but it will be possible in an hour. From the moment you say your will be done and not mine, what will, not of an external authority, that of the Father, that of the Source, that of Eber, of BIDI if you will, or of any other elder or any other star, they are in you, they are nowhere else. You're the world, you're creation, you're the dream, you are love in its totality, and it cannot be otherwise. Everything is in all and nothing is in all and everything is in nothing. That's a key sentence. Look here. Nothing is everything, and everything is nothing. Everything is in nothing and nothing is in everything. Oh yes, your character, with that, he doesn't know what to do with it. Love is, because that's what it is. You have been so deprived of this love, you have sought it so much, you have suffered so much. When I say you, it is us too, I too, but that is enough. It is time to say stop, stop to suffering, stop to separation, stop to the nightmare of individuality, stop to visions, stop to perceptions, stop to energies, stop to vibrations. When I say stop, they're not going to stop, they're there. But you are none of those things. You have been to resynthesize the body of eternity, to become conscious, to transfer your consciousness into spirit consciousness, but you are not even spirit consciousness. You are pure happiness, you are pure beatitude, you are pure love, nothing else. Everything else is just passing through. Everything else today just makes you cumbersome. Be humble, be simple. Love is simple, and the simpler you are, the simpler. I didn't say idiot, I said simple. The more you are in the present instant, the less you are affected by the character, by the mind, by the visions, by the projections. Love is naked. Do you think we used that word like that, by any chance? If love is not naked, it is not love. It depends on a relationship, it depends on a story, it depends on countless conditions, it is always personal, it will never be impersonal. True love is totally impersonal. It is neither you nor in the other, and yet you are the totality of creation, as I have told you. Love knows how to occupy your space, love knows how to occupy your times, and it does not depend on any time or space. It is the permanence of truth, it is the permanence of joy, it is the permanence of smiling, no matter what happens to you. You cannot understand it, you cannot accept it, you can only live it. Accept this principle, live it, and you will see it. It can't be any other way. Do you think Terezi needed to feel the energies, to have visions? No. The way of childhood is total faith in what was unknown at the time. Today, it is known. Look at all the testimonies you're giving. Once again, do not conceive of any guilt or responsibility. He's your character, but don't accuse him, eat him, as Agape said at the time. Love it, simply, and this love, true, authentic, as soon as you have felt one of the crowns, not to mention the breathing of the heart or the central point of the heart of the heart, and it is over. And you're going to tell me, it's not working. Well, yes, if it doesn't work, it's because you didn't do it, it stayed in your head, it stayed in your visions. But the natural positioning of the liberated being does not care about religions, does not care about a savior, does not even care about geneticist mothers, and does not care about the sacred masculine and feminine. They were steps, they were moments, they were milestones, that were put on your path to give you a framework, but now the frame of reference, it has been shattered. Love does not need a framework, love does not need a reference, love does not need a comparison, it is. Silence. Is it coming in? It goes in even more. Silence. And if it continues, I will be the one who will give you appointments of the sacred fire of the heart. You're going to have to deal with me, who is nothing but you. Come on, keep going. Voice. Yes. So, question from another sister. Hello BIDI, very happy to see you again, just knowing, as I work, I have colleagues who are very slanderous towards other people. How should I act or react? Thank you for everything. Neither, nor react, be what you are. Grace will spontaneously emanate from you. Everything you look at, everything you touch, everything you pay attention to, will be effective. But you cannot act from your character, from your person, but let love act. That is the challenge. The intelligence of the light is for all. The intelligence of the light is far ahead, far superior to your ki, your capacities of reflection or understanding. Love cannot be explained, it is. It is our essence, our nature, prior to any creation. We were perfect, we had forgotten it, we were. We wake up from the dream or nightmare. That's all. Accept it without believing it, put the equation in you and you will see the results. So, of course, it's not always immediate, sometimes it takes a few days, but it only takes once. Remember, you multiply the agape, you multiply the fires of the Sacred Heart, until it becomes natural, when you will no longer need, as I said, intention, will, to see anything, or diagnose anything. Love freely, without explanation, without understanding. Let this fire of the Sacred Heart radiate spontaneously from your heart, as Agape and JLA explained. Quite simply. You have nothing else to do. This is the state of grace, this is the state of love, this is being liberated from the person, being liberated from everyone. You're on this world, and I would even say more, you are not from any world, you are not even of your stellar origin. You predate that. It is the same entity, if you need terms, that has gone all the way. There is no more separation. So don't play that game of separation anymore, don't play that game of needing to understand before living it. It's impossible, you can only live it. Understanding comes behind, or after, not before. As long as you ask yourself the question of how to live it, you will not live it. It means that you do not fully accept what is there. But all you have to do is embrace and it's over. But when I say embrace, it is not a mental act, it is not a posture, it is not a position, it is much more than that, and the unknown becoming known, despite the persistence of the form, enjoy it. It is given, as I said, with the same intensity, with the same regularity, for the saint as for the assassin. And as long as you are searching for who is the saint, who is the murderer, you are not available for love, you're available for history, you're available for visions, you're available for the person, but not for yourself. And that, you'll see, this game, I have expressed it through suffering or through love, but the result is always the same. It cannot be otherwise. Why we called this world evidence? Why did I say when I was incarnated neti, neither this nor that, to which Abra added and this, and that, in order not to exclude anything, not even the ephemeral, there is nothing to throw away, there is nothing to explain, there is just to cross, there is just to embrace. The more you give, try to play this game, because you like games, give your time, give your attention, under any circumstances. I am not asking you to give money, I am asking you to give your gaze, your presence and your love to everything that passes before your eyes, everything that goes through your life, and it is over. I leave a few moments of rest before ask you for the next one, until my words penetrate. I too know how to play that fire of the Sacred Heart, even through this body where I express myself. So yes, joy, play, laughter, smiles, brotherhood in the sense that Ram heard it in his lifetime. But you are at the same time the brother, the father, the mother, the child, you're everything. You're really everything, provided you do not bring yourself back, provided you surrender, give yourself. And the more you give yourself, by looking, by intention, by time, by kindness and benevolence, the more you receive. You're only the receptacle, temple if you want, or bag of meat, you call it what you want. Silence. If there, in silence, you embrace me as I embrace you, here in this room or everywhere. Silence. Well, it's done, it's done, it's done, it's there, but don't stop at perception or lack of perception, don't stop at colors that can scroll, don't stop at heat that can appear anywhere on the body, all that's interfacing. That's what has to cross over, don't move. Silence. This is the sacred fire of the heart, of the sacred heart. It does not require words, it does not need to be explained. Silence. That is what it means to be crossed without interfering, without stopping, without wanting to see, without wanting to understand, without wanting to take hold of what is happening. Silence. So, what are you living now? We're moving on to the practical work. Coughing. Are there any sensitive throats? Let go, and besides there is nothing to let go, it is you who think you are holding something. Silence. Voice. Beatitude. Love. Don't stop anything, talk if you want, but don't stop anything, don't grab anything. You're all that, you are nothing else, and in this nothing, there is everything. Silence. Voice. Silence. Silence. I'll even do better. I decree that the fire of the Sacred Heart of BIDI will be active every day from 23 o'clock to midnight, at the time that you name France. You do not need to be awake, you do not need to embrace me, you can continue to go about your business. Many of you have already experienced archangelical radiance at that time, haven't you? Voice. Yes. Well, then, BIDI will be with you. I decree it now, every night from 23 o'clock to midnight. All. Thank you, BIDI. Thank you, BIDI. Until you all have a smile on your face. And until the event, without interruption, every day. Silence. I set the intention, I decree it, and I no longer take care of it, I wash my hands of it. The intelligence of the light acts this. It's not a gift, it is its due. Come on, other things to ask, to say, to express, other testimonies, whatever you want. Voice. Yes, question from a sister. You told us there would be changes starting tomorrow, April 15th, can you explain why? Is it astrological? Thank you, BIDI. It corresponds to a set of circumstances. So-called religious ceremonies within the illusion, of course, the ballet of the heavens, and more directly, the advancement of what you have called Napier, but not only. It is a period of embrace, a period of inner and outer revelations, where only what I have summarized by these two words is at stake: suffering or love. And I especially invite those who are affected by suffering, of whatever nature, those who have guilt of whatever nature, those to whom nothing seems to be living at all, to ask for the intention, as I have done, to decree to live the fire of the Sacred Heart at 23 o'clock. French time. You do not need to be awake, since the embrace itself will take place wherever you are, in sleep or in activity. All you have to do is decree it, in the same way as I decree it now, and I said it, until the event, every day. But you don't need to make an appointment at 123:00, since ultra-temporality is for everyone. Obviously, those who live the fire of the Sacred Heart, that is, the absence of suffering and the absence of fear, are also invited to join me, in order to make an ever-widening round, of love, not of egregore, but of resonance, from heart to heart and from heart to heart, through all history, of every person. You can also decree, even without living anything, by decreeing it to the intelligence of the light, even without living it, that it will be so. And that will be, independently of you. I am not asking you to clarify the workings of it or to understand how it is possible, just to live it, there too. Silence. Who is speaking? Voice. Yes, I'm asking you a question, BIDI. I would like to know, or that you remind us. What is ultra-temporality? Obviously, ultra-temporality, love knows neither time, nor distance, nor space. Ultra-temporality is what I just said, it is that you are no longer subject to time, you can ask an intention for an hour in the future and also for an hour that has already elapsed on a personal level. You are conscious co-creators. You can change what you call the past and what you call the future, since there is no time. This is the best demonstration that, of course, your body and your society are governed by time. Time is money, you are not. What more proof do you want to provide? It is in this sense that I was saying that you no longer need, really and concretely, even if I urge you to continue the appointment. Besides, I gave you one, and I said, you don't have to be awake, or wait for the time. You can connect, as you say, at any time. Try it. Not right now, from this night on, I said, but from tomorrow, you'll have full access to this reservoir of love at any time, on any day. How? How? You affirm, you decree at 23 o'clock. Or the hour of your home which corresponds to 23 o'clock in France. I participate in the fire of the Sacred Heart, and then you let go of the issue, you no longer think about it, and even if you sleep at that moment, you'll see its manifestations, the changes, the liveness, the evacuation of fears, the natural evacuation of sufferings. You will laugh, it is an irrepressible laugh. I think Abba told you, you're all going to die laughing. When you see that even the worst of suffering, the worst of confinement, is only part of the dream of creation to which you have consented and which you have already traveled in its entirety, because it escapes time, it escapes space, and it escapes even dimensions. The key is the present instant. I do repetition, 2. Time 0. Then use the words you want, the eternal present instant, the place of beatitude, which is done without location, without space, without intention and without time. Silence. We can continue if no one talks. Voice. Thank you, BIDI, for your answer. Another sister's question. What will the coming of Nibia change for us? But it's been explained in length, breadth and depth. Generalized cataclysms throughout the solar system, visible appearance of all vessels, of all dimensions in your heavens, upheavals of the earth, expansion of the earth, expansion of the sun, expansion of your consciousness that brings you from infinity to the 0 point, all at the same time. The white paradise and the black hole, the total fullness. The end of death, the end of the dream of individuality and the end of worlds, the end of time, the end of space, the end of the idea of being a form, or being in a dimension, or being in a body. There will only be bliss left. Consciousness will be seen as a real deadly disease. Moreover, it leads you to death, but the death of the person, the death of illusions. You've never moved. In everything that has happened over more than 30 years, in recent years, since exactly 1984, as explained, there has been a kind of acclimatization. Consciousness depended on the identity of a form, a framework, a history. Spirit-consciousness was not experienced. It was announced, this spirit-consciousness, by the beloved John, Sri Aurobindo. You're living it now. It is the end of all time, it is the end of all space. For the ego and consciousness, it will always be nothing. For the one who has transcended all consciousness as any character, as any scenario, it is bliss, where love is, where the source of love is, where there is no need for anything, no time, no space, no worlds, no suns, no one, what the ego calls the void, as consciousness. Silence. It is clear, precise and ongoing. It is not tomorrow, it is not 10 years from now, it is right now, and I would remind you that more and more of you are living it, partially or totally. It makes no difference. Do not ask yourself any questions, even if you clearly see through everything. I said today that you are there at times and not entirely. Abandon all guilt, abandon all sense of responsibility, and that is it, it is. And it will appear every day, in an increasingly powerful way, as I said, but also with more and more evidence, except, of course, those who are inscribed in consciousness, and who will have a lot of suffering, but this suffering is also illusory, for them not, for the moment, the time that love inhabits them, if I can say, entirely, as long as love does not totally consume this body. The real light we were talking about earlier before the break is neither white nor black, it is beyond any color, it is beyond any coloration, it is beyond any visible, it is beyond the invisible, it is life. That's what's there, now, here. Silence. Who is speaking? Voice. Question from one of our sisters. BIDI, you tell us you're coming to see us tonight, great. But are you coming back to see us tomorrow? In what way? I said I come every night. Voice. She didn't know until after, BIDI. You have to excuse her. The answer came before the question, it's often like that. Voice. Yes, thank you BIDI. Do we have any time left? Voice. Yes. Is this Holy Week special? Question from a sister. Especially on Resurrection Sunday. Yes, and regardless of the history of religions. As I said earlier, it is the ballet of the heavens, it is the will of the earth, it is the will of humanity, it is the global acceptance of humanity to the unknown, it is what you have all experienced, even if it is not constant, through Agape, through the breathing of the heart, through now the fire of the Sacred Heart, through the embrace and the gift. That had been said and I repeat it to you, because it has not been said for a long time now. The more the chaos of the world, the more the chaos of your character will grow, and you have seen it for several months, the more joy will be there. It may seem paradoxical, and yet it is the strict truth, and there is no paradox in it. It is either love or the world's. It is either consciousness or love. It is either suffering or love. You're at a kind of, not a crossroads, but a confluence of a certain number of circumstances, a certain number of elements, both in the heavens and in your inner, ephemeral body and in your consciousness. Time zero, as Agape tells you, is the total supposition he has given you to see through both his jokes and his songs that were suggested last year, where the sacred and the simulacrum play the same scene in a distorted mirror. The primordial androgynous, the end of the separation of the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine, frees you from your own attributes, from your own polarity, male or female. And in the same way, the chaos of the world is only the consummation by love. It takes place in this bag of meat, it takes place in your sacred heart, it takes place in relationships, in society and in everyone. It's the lighting. This lighting is not a discernment, because everything is illuminated with the same intensity, there is nothing to choose, there is just to embrace. Even the ultimate choice between suffering and love is not a real choice, because as a question has raised and as I repeat, it would really be stupid to prefer suffering to love, would it not? It's obvious. Your life is what it is, with your needs, with your illnesses, with your social situation, your affects, your relationships, all this no longer means anything. Everything you care about, says otherwise, will be consumed, in order to free you, and it will be a great joy. As those who, almost a year ago, moved a naked consciousness or in a body of eternity experienced, and where they moved, they witnessed the consummation of the world, the consummation of illusion, that is, matter. Matter is ultimately only a contraction of time and space, which prevents you from seeing all of time as well as all of space. That's the dream, the nightmare itself. And even the most horrible nightmare will turn into a great burst of laughter. It cannot be otherwise, there is only the ego or the person who may find this implausible or impossible. As I was saying earlier, all those who play with consciousness, with perceptions, to build a kind of continuity, they are still inscribed in time, they consider life as an eternal beginning again, here or elsewhere. No. Love has never moved, it has always been there, it does not need movement, life does not need worlds, nor suns, nor devil, nor God, all these are beliefs. Show me God, show me. Religions have only served to lock you up, all of them, without exception, even those that have carried a true message, and they have all carried a true message, have all been transformed by humanity, by a need to enslave, by a need to control, by a need to master. Mastery is only suffering, and moreover you have many brothers and sisters who, here or elsewhere, talk about this suffering, this mastery, you have had it in question. It's when you're mastering. Love controls nothing, it is natural, spontaneous, obvious, the opposite of the person, the opposite of what you experience, exactly the opposite of what you perceive in this world, even through your gifts. Silence. What else? What else? Voice. Are there any more questions? So let's go then. Voice. Are there any more or not? No. No. No one has any more questions, BIDI. Thank you very much. So I suggest you stop screaming and I tell you, every night. All. Thank you, BIDI. Thank you. Thank you, BIDI. And so I'm not telling you, forever or ever, but I'm telling you, I'm in you, and you're going to see, because you're going to live it. Laughs. Sister, we love you. And remember, don't make a difference between a star, between an elder, between me, or a bear, or between each of you. You're the same. At another space-time, there is only one, and that comes from where? From nothing, which is so scary to those who need form, to those who need stories. The poor. No, but I say that, but it's funny, we love them all, it's not possible to do otherwise. But it is time, as some people think, to distribute some very dry slaps of pure love, without decorum, without speech and without anything. BIDI loves you. All. So do we. BIDI loves you. All. We love you too. So do we. We love you too. And BIDI tells you, every night. All. See you soon. Tonight, every night, BIDI. Kisses, goodbye. Thank you. Through Jean-Luc Young. Les Transformations. French transcript. Agape team. English translation. LMF.